Hello everyone, GoldenNova here. We're carrying on the holiday spirit with another series of cards that evoke a festive spirit. We covered some toys last episode, so let's continue that trend with a bunch of plastic pals who have a very special spring in their step. Premiering in the August 2011 core set Generation Force, windups were part of the vanguard of the Xyz era along with Gagagas, and have one of the most interesting gimmicks I think the game has ever seen. While not a flip deck, it interacts with the face-down defense position in a way seen only by players trying to dodge Effect Veiler. And while their dominance of the meta has long since waned, it's still capable of a number of combos that will, well, make your head spin. Get ready to crank up your game with Windup Explained. Today's episode is brought to you by my lovely patrons, as well as the wonderful people over at Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales and save 5% on your order by using coupon code GoldenNova at checkout. So what's the deal with windups? Well, despite their mechanical appearance, that type only applies to the extra deck monsters. Our main deck ones are a variety of types, and they're all spread across different attributes. So what's the through line here? Well, our main deck monsters' effects can only be activated once while face up on the field. This means the effects are usually quite potent, but lose effectiveness rather quickly. Think fast acting, but not really long lasting. This is why they work so well with being flipped face down, as being flipped back up will effectively reset the limit of their effect usage. And because you have to kind of rotate your wrist to flip the card over, it has an actual tactile element to it, like how you would turn a key to wind up a toy like this. Now that I've had a chance to actually think about it, this is actually a pretty brilliant design. There's also a number of effects that require you to change the battle position of your windups, and while that's not quite as thematic, it's kind of like the gears changing position to accomplish different tasks, or is just the process of the windup toys releasing their energy to do their routine, which is actually similar to how Kara Curries would use position changing to emphasize the movement of their clockwork structure, which is a pretty cool mechanical connection across archetypes. You know, I give the R&D department a lot of guff, but sometimes they really do hit it out of the park. Alright, with that preamble taken care of, let's take a look at our little beasties. Windup Bat is a level 1 wind machine... Okay, we have one main deck machine, Sumi, with 300 attack and 350 defense. You can target a wind-up monster in your grave and change this face-up attack position card you control to face-up defense position, and add that target to your hand. So hey, we've got some recursion on our hands. It also showcases the strength of these position-changing effects. Having to normal summon a 300 attack monster leaves you open to a lot of punishment, but by changing to defense position, your opponent's gonna have to try a little bit harder to get some damage in. Heck, because it doesn't exclude recovering other copies of itself, if your opponent is stuck on only a single attacker, you can loop a couple bats over and over again until your game plan develops. Even if I have to admit that's not a very solid plan. In fact, I think it's fair to say that it's downright batty. Windup Honeybee is a level 1 earth insect monster with 100 attack and 300 defense, and when this card is destroyed by a battle and sent to the grave, you can special summon a level 4 or lower windup monster from your deck. So hey, bonus, this is one of the few windup monsters that aren't restricted to only activating once while face up on the field. The downside is that it doesn't activate anything while on the field. It's basically a floater to tutor out our more important windup monsters when it gets squished. It doesn't have a lot of faith in its own abilities, but it certainly believes in its companions. Windup Kitten is a level 2 Earth Beast monster with 800 attack and 500 defense, and you can target one monster your opponent controls and return it to the hand. Yeah, when I said these effects were potent to make up for the once per on the field restriction, I was not joking. This card just comes with a compulsory evacuation device, which has made it not only good for our deck when it's looking to clear out threats, it just so happens to have the perfect stat line to function with the level 2 Beast Pile. You can summon this out with monsters like Valeraphon, you can summon it out as part of the team with Obedience Schooled. It's a real treat. Even if it feels a little out of character though, Windup Kitten is all about bouncing cards back into the hand, but all the kittens I've ever known like knocking things down off counters, and I don't see any anti-grav tech on this cool cat. Windup Snail is a level 2 water aqua monster with 100 attack and 2000 defense, and during your main phase, you can target a set card on the field and return it to the hand. Yep, it's another Windup Kitten, but we're aiming at back row this time around. Mostly. Because it says set card, you can also clear out face down defense position monsters too. But my main problem is that it doesn't work like bat. You have this big butt, but unless you special summon this in defense position, you're forced to normal summon it in attack position and keep it there for a turn cycle. And I don't think bouncing one set card is going to be worth that on its own. I don't know, it just doesn't seem like it's really snailing the design. Windup Dog is a level 3 Earth Beast monster with 1200 attack and 900 defense, and during your main phase, you can increase this card's level by 2 and attack by 600 until the end phase. That's right, despite the printed stats, it can also be a level 5 monster with 1800 attack. But why? Well, remember that this theme was introduced alongside the Xyz mechanic, and windups have both rank 3 and 5 monsters. So if you just need a monster that's good at combat, you have it for a turn, but it can also modulate to whatever level you need to make one of your boss monsters. It's a very, very good dog, but I am gonna have to deny it entry to the good Yu-Gi-Oh! Doggos continuum. It would be like adding one of those robo-dogs to the likes of Vendread Houndhorde and Raikou. It's just not the same. Windup Hunter is a level 3 Dark Beast Warrior monster with 1600 attack and 500 defense, and to contribute a face-up windup monster, except a copy of this card, to send a random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard. And remember, it says send, not discard, so you don't have to worry about getting punished by Dark Worlds or dangers. Now, this is one of the most infamous windup monsters in the theme. Maybe one of the most infamous monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! You might think that a monster with a once per face-up on the field effect restriction would limit any problematic interactions, but that's where you'd be wrong, because it's not a hard once per turn limit. So if you can keep bringing Hunter back to the field with the material to tribute, you can keep picking cards out of your opponent's hand over and over again. And as it turns out, there's a way to do that in Engine that can do it 3 times. Now, I'm going to wait until we reach the extra deck section to go more into depth on this so we have as much context as possible, but there's a reason this card was forbidden back in the day. In 2024, this card is currently a 3 in the TCG. OCG is still a little too afraid of it, which should be an indication of how powerful modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Has become over the last decade plus years of releases. Glad to see we have more centaurs in the game. Not so happy to see Hunter giving him a bad name, though. Windup Rabbit is a level 3 Earth Beast Warrior monster with 1400 attack and 600 defense, and as a quick effect, you can target a face-up windup monster you control and banish it until your next standby phase. This effectively resets your windup monster's effects while helping them to dodge interaction by phasing out at quick speed. I mean, if they get banished, they're no longer face-up on the field, right? And Rabbit doesn't say it can't target itself, so you could get it off the field, and when it returns, its effect would be live once again. In fact, this all reminds me of where I've seen this card most, in a little pile called Chain Beat, which you might remember me talking about when I covered Evil Swarms, funnily enough. It's had a few variations over the years, and hasn't been super relevant since Duelist Alliance format made the slower, plodding pace of the game pretty much obsolete, but there was probably no deck that leaned into that playstyle better than Chain Beat did. As for why it's named that way, it's chain for the number of chainable effects that you had, ranging from powerful trap cards to monsters that would tag out of the field when danger presented itself, like Windup Rabbit, and beat because, well, once you'd worn down your opponent's options, you beat them senseless so they can't recover. In-game. Trust me, that 1400 attack stat may not look imposing right now, but when everything is being halved by an active Black Garden, it's basically Obelisk the Tormentor in a bunny girl suit. And that statement is telling me that I've rambled on about a deck that isn't really the focus of today's video for quite some time. For Windup specifically, it's a pretty snazzy way to reset an effect, and has some utility as a self-banisher. Very clean design, so glad to see that we were setting the groundwork for Cinderace all the way back in 2011. Windup Rat is a level 3 Earth Beast monster with 600 attack and defense, and during your main phase, you can target a Windup monster in your graveyard. Change this face-up attack position card you control to face-up defense position, and special summon that target in face-up defense position. Alright, we've got a revival effect on our hands. You know, I've been going on about how being face down or even being banished can help you to reset your effects, but I haven't really touched on how effective it would be if you just died, so a rat could drag your broken carcass out from the scrap heap. And not only could you count on this to get your most important cards back into play, this is also a big part of the Windup Hunter hand rip-a-rama. Don't worry, we're gonna get to it! But outside of war crimes, this is just a solid addition to the deck that also helps to ensure you don't just take a bunch of damage for investing in the effect. Sad to see it summoning in face-up defense position though, so that we can't use another effect like that as soon as possible. But I said Rat was good for utility, I didn't say it was a team player, so set your expectations accordingly, otherwise you're really gonna get cheesed off. Windup Juggler is a level 4 wind psychic monster with 1700 attack and 1000 defense, and after damage calculation, if this card battled an opponent's monster, you can destroy that opponent's monster. Yeah, this just trades with anything in combat. You can use this to blow up monsters resistant to battle destruction, or you can just use it like an exiled force by way of DD Warrior Lady. Not a lot to go over here actually. If it destroyed before damage calculation, we'd be seeing a very aggro monster that can clear a ton of threats without giving up a body. But as it stands, you're basically always trading the Juggler for something. Which wasn't terrible for the time, but nowadays, I'd play just about anything with this. Which is a real shame because this is easily our most dapper wind-up monster. It's got the bow tie, the button-down dress shirt. This wind-up is ready to put on a show. Vegas, you better watch out. Windup Knight is a level 4 light warrior monster with 1800 attack and 1200 defense, and when a face-up windup monster you control is targeted for an attack, you can negate the attack. Simple, easy, and to the point. They even gave him a decent attack stat so you can save the attack negate for another of your tiny creatures, so long as your opponent keeps summoning on parity with you. Bit of a diatribe here, but I've always felt like Knight didn't really match the aesthetics of the rest of the windups. I always have a moment where I think this is supposed to work alongside cards like Toy Knight, but it does still look rad as hell, and is the quintessential Clockwork Knight. But not Clockwork Knight. Or heck, not even Clockwork Knight, that's not going to be confusing at all. Windup Magician is a level 4 fire spellcaster monster with 600 attack and 1800 defense, and if the effect of a windup monster is activated, except a copy of this card, you can special summon a level 4 or lower windup monster from your deck in face-up defense position. We are just running into really iconic cards in this set, huh? Magician is one of our strongest enablers, effectively giving you an extra body the first time you use a windup effect. And like we touched on with Hunter, being able to generate advantage like this without a hard once per turn restriction can be dangerous. But the first step towards making the most of our effects is getting in a position to use them in the first place, and Magician isn't looking too good on that front. By itself, it does nothing. All we can hope for is to set it in defense position, hope it doesn't get run over by combat, then use it on the following turn should we have another windup to summon. That is, until another friend showed up that made things go a lot quicker. And because the two are so often used together, it'd be a shame not to cover them in succession. So get ready to make some waves, because our next card is Windup Shark, a level 4 water fish monster with 1500 attack and 1300 defense. And when a windup monster is normal or special summoned to your field, you can special summon this card from your hand. And once per turn, you can activate one of these effects, either increasing its level by 1 until the end phase, or decreasing its level by 1 until the end phase. Notably, this is not once wall phase up on the field. Shark can perpetually be either a level 3, 4, or 5 monster to fit whatever need you have when it comes to making your Xyz. And that might seem pretty tame, but when it comes to enabling Magician, it's Megumin levels of explosive. So long as you have both in hand, it works like this. You normal summon Magician, triggering the Shark in hand to summon it. This will then trigger Magician's effect because another windup monster's effect was just activated, summoning another windup from your deck, and whatever level it is, Shark can match it with its own effect. But see, that's not even the full beauty of it, because while Magician summon can only trigger when a differently named windup activates its effect, nothing's stopping Magician from summoning another copy of Magician, which can then key off the level modulation effect of Shark, getting you a 4th windup. That leaves you with 2 level 4 Magicians, a Shark of varying levels, and then whatever windup you want from your main deck. The possibilities here are staggering. You have all the materials you need for any 3 material rank 4, you can summon Rat to get a Graveyard Revival and set up a rank 3, or you can get Hunter, tribute one of the Magicians for a hand attack, and then you caught me monologuing. Don't worry, just a few more level 4 monsters to go, and then I can share the secret sauce. Suffice it to say, Magician and Shark form a devastating combo that can make so many Xyz monsters, and it only gets better the more generic Xyz monsters they make available, letting your combo ceiling go higher and higher and higher. But just be careful. You know, work all the magic you want at the table, but if you want to establish good relationships with others, don't lay it on too thick. No one likes a card shark. after all. Windup Soldier is a level 4 Earth Warrior monster with 1800 attack and 1200 defense, and during your main phase you can increase this card's level by 1 and attack by 400 until the end phase. That's right, we've got another level modulator that works like dog, even ending up on the same level. It helps that its base attack is 1800, so you can hold off on using the boost if need be. Aside from that, not much else to cover here really, so we might as well rope in another similar monster, Windup Warrior, a level 4 Earth Warrior monster with 1200 attack and 1800 defense that can target any face-up windup monster you control and increase its level by 1 and its attack by 600 until the end phase. That's right, while you can make Warrior another level 5 monster, this has the utility of upping any other windup's level so they can match and build the overlay network. The lower attack stat does make it a bit less desirable than Soldier, as it only stands on the same grounds when in defense position, but does mean you can stack one of the self boosts on top of Warriors to go absolutely sicko mode for a turn. And whenever you have to go face down to reset your effects, it's very much to your benefit that you've got a sturdy posterior. Must be rough having only claws though. Truly the Windup War Machine has taken these promising young toys and turned them into tools to enact immense cartoon violence. I weep for our ESRB rating. Alright, that does it for all of our main deck monsters. Now it's time for the ones that dwell in our extra deck. Remember, these are all machine type, and even though we can activate our effects multiple times while face up on the field, we haven't abandoned our clockwork aesthetic completely, as now we've swapped out the arbitrary activation limitation to a more physical one, the amount of Xyz material the monster has. It's got more winds to it, but it'll run out all the same. Windup Zenmaines is a rank 3 Xyz monster with 1500 attack and 2100 defense, requiring 2 level 3 monsters as material. If this face-up card on the field would be destroyed, you can detach an Xyz material instead. And once per turn, during the end phase, if this effect was used this turn, target one card on the field and destroy it. Once again, iconic monster. Zenmaines would see play across a variety of decks that had access to level 3 monsters, and for good reason. Not only did it have a decent enough defense to hold down the fort going first, it resisted 2 destructions, both by battle and by effect. So unless your opponent had 3 ways to destroy Zenmaines lined up in a single turn, they'd have to deal with the retaliation effect during that end phase. Much like how putting too much energy into a spring will cause it to violently decompress, putting them back even further in card advantage. Heck, if you wanted to be cheeky, the attack stat of Zenmaines is low enough where you could summon this in attack position, run it into a bigger monster, and then go to the end phase to get that pop. And with the availability of Tour Guide of the Underworld, if you had the cash at the time, you really could just access this off a single normal summon. This would be a staple monster in extra decks for years and would take a long time to be power crept from the format. But its meta relevance should be no surprise. As a monster with 1500 attack and 2100 defense, it draws its lineage from the same lore that produced Tearlaments and Kashtira. Truly, the Visas Starfrost line contains a horrid and ancient power. Windup Carrier Zenmaity is a rank 3 water monster with 1500 attack and defense, requiring any 2 level 3 monsters as material. Once per turn, you can detach an Xyz material from this card to special summon a Windup monster from your hand or deck, and when a face-up Windup monster on the field is destroyed and sent to the grave, except during the damage step, you can detach an Xyz material from this card to target that monster and return that target to the hand, giving you another way to effectively reset your monsters. Though, because it doesn't work during the damage step, it's not going to trigger when destroyed by battle, so make sure to keep that in mind. But if you know anything about windups, you know that you're probably never going to bother spending material on that effect, because the first one is far more effective. Getting any member of an Archetypes roster is a powerful effect, and with the kind of combos we've talked about previously, this is ready to unleash some truly unfun lines of play, for your opponent at least. That's right, it's time to talk about the dreaded Hunter combo. Basically, if you can make a Zenmaity with a Hunter in graveyard, you can use this ship to summon out a Windup Rat to bring back the Hunter from your graveyard. Use the Hunter to tribute the Zenmaity to rip a card out of your opponent's hand, then overlay the level 3 Hunter and level 3 Rat for another Zenmaity. From this point, you can do this over and over again until you no longer have Zenmaities or Rats to summon. And if you have Pot of Avarice, you can reset them to get a few more uses out of them. The only question is it easy to pull off? And the answer is Magician and Shark. With that combo we talked about previously, the last windup you summon is Hunter. Use its effect to tribute a magician to get the first hand rip, and when you activated Shark, make sure you de-level it, making it 3. Overlay the Hunter and the now level 3 Shark for your first Zenmaity, and as long as you detach the Hunter as the material to summon out the Rat, you now have 3 more cards you can take out of your opponent's hand. So if they're going second, that means your opponent is only going to have 2 cards to work with, plus anything with graveyard synergies they might have dropped. And it's because of this that Zenmaity is banned, at least in the TCG, which I find to be very funny. You know, we have Hunter, but they have Zenmaity, which means the OCG still has the best engine card for the theme, while we just kind of have Hunter with no way to use it effectively. It's a weird place to be, and it kind of emphasizes how strange it is to have a separate ban list. It really shows how much Zenmaity really carried the theme. Windup Zenmeister is a rank 4 Earth monster with 1900 attack and 1500 defense, requiring any 2 level 4 monsters as material. It gains 300 attack for each Xyz material attached to it, and once per turn you can detach an Xyz material from this card to target a face-up monster that you control and change that face-up monster to face-down defense position, and if you do, during the end phase of this turn, change it to face-up attack position. That's right, this is a Book of Moon, but only for your monsters, so don't expect this to stun your opponent anytime soon. Rather, you'll be aiming to use this effect during your main phase 2 after combat to reset your windup activations. But even if you don't need that effect, it still hits the board with a fantastic 2500 attack, including its Xyz material boost. It also means it scales well with any effect that can grant Xyz material to make it even stronger. That being said, this is a card meant to sustain you through the long game, planted in a deck known for its explosive game-ending combos, so Zenmeister didn't get much notoriety, save for being a tin promo, ensuring it would be part of many duelists' toolbox. Which is a huge shame, cause Zenmeister here has some absurd boss monster energy. It feels like I should be teaming up with some comrades to take this on in some kind of custom robo-style arena. Windup Arsenal Zenmayo is a rank 5 wind monster with 2600 attack and 1900 defense, requiring any 2 level 5 monsters as material. Once per turn, you can detach an Xyz material from this card to target 2 set cards on the field and to destroy them. This is one of the most difficult of the Xyz to summon since none of them are natively level 5, so you'll have to do some level modulation to get this deployed, which means more often than not, you'd see this being played in non-windup decks that had level 5 monsters just lying around. And to its credit, this is a fantastic monster for clearing out back row, as well as the occasional monster that's found itself having a bad day. Though, be careful, it destroys 2 set cards, not up to 2 set cards. So if your opponent is playing it safe by, say, only setting a single card, you may have to target one of your own set cards to activate it. But depending on what deck you're playing, you may not mind that quite as much, which I'm sure can really surprise some opponents, meaning Zenmayo can elicit an oh my. That does it for our Xyz, but we've got a little piece of modern support in the form of Windup Zen Maintenance, a Link 2 light monster with 1800 attack, requiring 2 windup monsters as material. If this card is destroyed and sent to the grave, you can target a windup Xyz monster you control and attach this card to it as material. If this card is Link summoned, you can add a windup card from your deck to your hand, and you can banish a face-up windup monster you control face down to special summon a monster from your deck with the same name that card had on the field. This is a pretty nifty inclusion for the theme, though clearly not as powerful as some of its early Link era contemporaries. Giving you some extra monster zones to work with was great for deploying your Xyz, at least during Master Rule 4's first version, and the added consistency of the search wasn't bad either. The summoning effect is what's most impactful though, getting value out of one of your windups, then immediately trading it out for another so you could activate its effect again. This meant you could grab another magician to reset their effect, rat for another summon, or replace one kitten with another for more removal. The only thing I'm on the fence about is the ability to recharge one of your windup Xyz monsters. Without a way to destroy your own cards in theme, even Zenmayo doesn't work because Zen Maintenance can't even be set. This is largely either at the whim of your opponent to trigger, or you have to run this into the opponent, and this is no Zen mains. This doesn't feel quite as good to crash in. Overall, it's a welcome addition to the theme, though it just doesn't feel like a windup monster. Between the googly eyes and the blocky body, I'd go so far as to say this is a design ripped straight out of Cubics. You know, robots for everyone. Alright, that does it for all the wind-up monsters. Now it's time for the spells and traps. Weights and Zen Measures is a normal spell card that targets 2 face-up wind-up monsters you control with different levels. Your opponent chooses one of them, and the level of the other monster becomes the same as the chosen monsters until the end phase. Then, if your opponent chose the monster with the lower level, you can draw a card. So no matter what, you'll have a pair of matching levels, but your opponent is incentivized to pick the higher level, lest you be given a draw. And at first, that kind of makes sense. A rank 4 could equal a better effect. So your opponent either lets you have access to that, or deprives you of that in return for a draw. But it's actually our lower ranked Xyzs that have better effects. Why would you give your opponent access to Zen mains, or even Zen Meidi depending on the format, and give them a draw when you can just give them Zen Maester or Zen Mayo, especially if they don't line up with your game plan? This could get annoying at some point if more Xyz options become available, and because windups don't apply any summon restrictions, you could end up with some higher ranked options if you include more level boosting effects to set your opponent off guard, but it just doesn't Zen measure up to our other options. Zen Malfunction is a normal spell card that targets a wind-up monster in your grave and special summons it in face-up defense position. Its effects are negated, and it can't be attributed or used as synchro material. You can see the kind of stuff the devs were worried about back in the day. Sadly, because this negates the effects of what was summoned, you aren't going to be able to use any of their effects, though it does kind of lean into our effects that care about flipping our monsters face down. See, when a monster afflicted with one of these lingering effects is flipped face down, it usually removes those lingering effects, and this is one of those cases. So you can basically think of a monster revived by Zen Malfunction as having already used its effect and thus being out of energy, and is in need of a good winding. And some maintenance as well. I wonder if we have anyone around that could help with that. Legendary Windup Key is a quick play spell card that changes all face-up wind-up monsters you control to face-down defense position. Hey, there we go, a quick and dirty way to reset all of our effects. It also helps to get your wind-ups with good defense into a more favorable position. You're welcome, Snail! At the very least, it can save you from taking more damage than you otherwise would. And as one of the few spell and trap cards you can search off of Zen Maintenance Search effect, this is eminently available. Though, I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of non-engine that sports a lot more utility than this, so you may find this card to be a bit lacking. Not the kind of assessment I want to be giving to the legendary item of the windups, but to be honest, it's a winding key. It shouldn't really be a legendary one-of-a-kind item that's meant to be used across the entirety of the windup collective. You should have some spares. Right now, this is not impressive, it's negligence. Windup Factory is a continuous spell card that, once per turn, if an effect of a windup monster is activated, except during the damage step, you can add a level 4 or lower windup monster from your deck to your hand. Now this was a cornerstone card for the theme. Only getting one use out of your windups is pretty limiting, so why not set up a conveyor belt that made sure you were getting a new windup to replace the last one every turn. And imagine what happens when you set up a board that keeps your windups safe, so now you just get to stack windups on top of each other to snowball your advantage. And nothing's stopping you from controlling multiple copies of this, so while each one only triggers once per turn, it's once per turn per copy. So the more modules you add to your manufacturing plant, the more value you get out of it, leading to a greater feeling of satisfactory. Overwind is a normal trap card that targets a face-up wind-up monster you control to double its attack and defense, but it's returned to the hand during the end phase. This may seem like a drawback to most, but remember, by returning to the hand, it's another way to reset your effects. Granted, it's because it goes to the hand instead of being set face down, so you will have to use your normal summon to bring it back, but depending on the card, it could be worth it. And some of the monsters we have that can double their stats are kind of wild. Soldier, without any bonus, goes up to 3,600, and because it doubles our attack and defense, not the original versions, if we apply our 400 bonus, it goes up to 4,400, clearing even the mighty Obelisk the Tormentor. Now imagine if you could activate more than one of these per turn. You could run away with the game out of nowhere, but I guess it doesn't want to promote players overworking themselves. Zen Maelstrom is a normal trap card that tributes a windup monster with 1500 or more attack to special summon a windup monster from your hand. Then you can special summon a windup monster from your deck with the same attack as the monster special summoned by this effect. Now, it does not exclude summoning a monster with the same name, so in a pinch, you can just summon the same copy of what you just got out of your hand, which you may find yourself doing more often than not since we don't have a lot of good attack pairs. At present, we have Honeybee and Snail, Magician and Rat, Dog and Warrior, and lastly, Knight and Soldier. It's a nifty way to trade in a windup for 2 more of them, even if the monsters that you summon are predicated on what you have available in your hand, but my question is, why have the attack limitation? 1500 or more means we can't tribute cards like Magician, Rat, Snail, or Kitten, cards that have stats too low to justify keeping them around, and would do better as a stepping stone for other cards once their effects have been used. As it stands now, Zen Maelstrom is just needlessly restrictive to, what, ensure the floor is being able to tribute the Xyz monsters while barring everything else off? What a mess. It's like a storm blew through here or something. Zen March is a normal trap card that targets a face-up level 4 or lower wind-up monster that you control. Return that target to the hand, no matter its level, then special summon a wind-up monster from your hand with the same level as the returned monster. This has some pretty funny reminder text just to make sure we know the level limit of 4 only matters for the targeting portion, while letting you pull off some funny stuff by changing the level to match a different wind-up's level. But at its most basic, Zen March is another way to reset your wind-up effects. It gets them off the field and returns them so you can make use of them in additional time. It's also useful for getting them out of the way of dangerous effects, which is nice. Or, if you have matching levels in your hand, you can surprise your opponent with a whole new wind-up monster. Zen March is basically a shell game, letting you shuffle around your wind-ups as needed, having them pop up when your opponent least expects them. It truly is a Zen March of the machines. You know, if either these monsters were machines, or if this was a Magic the Gathering set. Zen Mayday is a continuous trap card that, once per turn, lets you target a machine Xyz monster you control to attach a wind-up monster from your hand or field to that monster as Xyz material. You can also send this face-up card from the field to the grave, then target a wind-up Xyz monster you control. Special summon from your extra deck a wind-up monster that is 1 rank higher than that target by using that target as Xyz material. You can't activate these effects during the same chain. So what we have here is a combination card that can refresh Xyz material and is a rank up magic spell. The problem is that none of these are really helpful to the theme the way that it's played. Zen Mains having extra protection is nice but not fantastic. Zen Meity hardly has the time to use more than 1 material. Zen Maester doesn't really see play, and Zen Mayo, well, you're already deploying rank 5s, you don't really need the material help. The rank up magic portion is similarly ineffectual. Turning either of our rank 3s into Zen Maester requires you to play Zen Maester, and turning Zen Maester into Zen Mayo requires you to play Zen Maester. This leaves us with the niche part of the effect, as the Xyz recharge works on any machine Xyz monster, not just windups. But I'm stuck thinking of what would be effective here. Like, getting more material onto Zeus is nice, making more Mega Phantom Beast tokens with Dracosack? I don't know. This feels pretty nifty on paper, but in practice, durdling is the best we've got here. Like with the Zen Maintenance crew on the card, this struggles to do basically anything. Alright, that's all the wind-up cards, but what do we do with them? Well, we can't rely on our ability to crush our opponent's hand without the help of Zen Meity, and because this is not an OCG or Master Duel channel, we can't count on it to be the engine for our Xyz or link spamming shenanigans, since all we have now is Zen Maintenance, which does a poor job as a replacement. Thanks for slapping on that hard once per turn condition there, designers, really kept with the spirit of the theme. So we're gonna have to cobble together some kind of additional game plan that utilizes as much material as we can get our hands on to throw together some semblance of a board, even if we have to rely on off-theme monsters to do it. So what can we play to help them out? First up, what are cards we can play that makes the most of our windups? We mentioned that Legendary Windup Key is a bit too low impact, and I stand by that. I'd much rather have a Book of Moon any day of the week, though we can also go all in with Book of Eclipse if we want to hit all of our opponent's monsters too, which bonus gives Zen Mayo a lot more targets to work with. Sol and Luna is a pretty snazzy pick as well, having the ability to either set down or flip up a windup of ours while flipping down an opponent's monster, and all of that still at quick effect speed. but possibly the most wild out of all of them is Interdimensional Matter Forwarder. Sure, the Transporter version can blink a windup out of existence for a turn, but Forwarder banishes, then brings the monster back immediately, resetting the once per on the field activation and giving you another one outright. And if your windups get negated by anything, then you have a way to reset it again to use the effect again. Windup Shark is one of our biggest combo pieces, so we're gonna want as many ways to grab it as possible. And thankfully, as windups seem to have a number of monsters that line up with other themes in the game, like how Kitten was part of the level 2 beast pile, Shark just so happens to be a fish, meaning we can use some of Reginald Castle's support. The two I'm most fond of are Surfacing Big Jaws because when are you not activating spells, and 7th Tachyon, which has basically no setup. And bonus, Tachyon can also search us Windup Magician if we build our extra deck the right way, just in case we already have Shark in hand. Both of them put Windup Shark from our deck into our hand, but come with a restriction that keeps us from summoning from the extra deck except for Xyz monsters, which does shut off Zen maintenance access, but I think that's a small price to pay, especially if you've managed to get that Link monster onto the field before putting yourself under that lock. Clockwork Knight might have some fun utility. Not only will you be able to forget that your little machine toys are not in fact machines, it gives you another rank 5 to make instead of Zen Mayo. Cyber Dragon Nova. And that's not just the personal vanity talking. You also get access to Cyber Dragon Infinity off of that, which is a far cry better than most of the options that you have available. It's even the first Machine Xyz monster I can think of that makes meaningful usage of Zen Mayday, as you're constantly feeding it more material to make it stronger and ensuring it has more material for negates. As for a silly tech pick, this is something I saw floating around basically every deck list that I researched, and it makes a very interesting amount of sense. Once you've set up your game plan, feel free to fire off Fusion Destiny, specifically to make Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. That's right, the bane of competitive play back during its time, this card controls the field in domineering fashion, blasting cards over and over again, never letting your opponent get a foothold in the game. And that's not even accounting for the cards you can send to grave as fusion material. Dasher represents a free special summon for a turbocharged turn, and Celestial is totally legal in the TCG, giving you a free pot of greed once you've run out of gas so you can keep the pedal to the metal. And as it turns out, it's an excellent way to trigger Zen Maintenance's effect to put it under an Xyz monster. It's a win-win. And that's all I've got to say about windups. It's a shame to see a deck that had so much potential and power be brought low by the powers that be, though it's not like the deck is without sin. Hopefully at some point we can get an errata on some of these cards, or better yet, a whole new wave of windups with cards that can fill the gap so we can see them on the field of battle once more. Don't worry, with enough gumption, I'm sure we can make it all clock work out. But now, I want to hear what you all have to say. Are windups due for a rewind, or do we need to lock them up and throw away the legendary key? And which one's your favorite? Now I've got to go with Soldier. Something about the V-shaped headpiece is very Gundam to me, and I can't pass that up. Let me know what your favorite is down below, and if you haven't already, please be sure to like the video if you liked it, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and be sure to share this video with somebody you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out. Today's episode is brought to you by Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales and get 5% off your order by using the coupon code GoldenNova at checkout. It was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commanders, Upstairs Media, and Natiel Lee Alexander, Nebula Navigators 3rd Dynasty, 50 Gigabytes, Ada Basilisk, Adam Zajdel, Ancient Wizard, Andrew Newman, Battle Axe, Kane Senpai, Chibi Gohan, Christopher Fuss, Clockswork, Comrade Cobblebottom, Eric, Frankie, Garland Chaos, Going It/Its for the Bit/Bits, Great Big Pillock, Hair Bear, Happy Majin, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Iron Zero, Iskander 711, Carp, Marion James E. Picata, Millennia Asta, Muse Clark, Neon Yaminair, Orozco 09096, Panther J, Pat Poos, Rank 10 Trains, Rebel King Lucifer, Red Eyes Jackalow, RJ the Jank Monarch, The Critic of Innocence, Thievery Coast and the Wizard Moose, Cosmic Crusaders Animasta, Baron Von Titty Sprinkles, Beelzebub Fish, Beluga Master, Blitzwolf, Caesar M, Chaz Ghost, Dr. Reaper RIP, Eva Padilla, Hyperboyagian, Herbal D, Ignis Heat the true Draco Slayer, Inblink, Kale the Dragon, Lobomaru02, Manga Pages, Matt Simmons, McSpoofy, Mike, Nitromo, Not Al Gore, Nyx, Obsidian, Rainer Leong, Rhyme Kairos, Shizuki Nijimura, Sir Knight JCB, Sophie, apparently, Stephen Williamson, The Legendary Raven, The Phantom Knights of Shitted Pants, The Gene, Tiger X2476, Weasel King of Weaseltown, and Zaldreka, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, get my videos early, be a part of these credits and other awesome perks, it would mean the world to me if you would check out the link to my Patreon in the description or consider joining as a YouTube member. And if you'd like to see another deck that has a penchant for modulating its levels to make some wild Xyz monsters, check out this video where I cover Constellars. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.